Have you ever been around someone where nothing is technically wrong, but something just doesn't feel right? Let's talk about the experience. It's something that you can't explain, but you know that something is off. You're just not sure what. You don't know whether it's their facial expression, you don't know whether it's their tone of voice, but something isn't adding up. Your gut is screaming at you because something is off. Something isn't aligning. Maybe they're not telling you the truth. Maybe they're trying to mislead you. Maybe they're offering to take you to the gas station because you've run out of gas, but yet you don't want to get into the car with them because you feel like something is off. Even though they were nice, even though others like them, you doubt yourself. You doubt yourself because there are other people who think that they're nice people. But for whatever reason, they are giving you a signal that you don't trust. And if you have had that experience before where you've overridden your decision, well, they're a nice person. They're wanting to help me. Why am I being so snarky? Why am I judging them? Why am I not giving them a chance? That's not really nice of me to do. There's a difference though. There's a difference between looking at someone's physical appearance and deciding that that is a bad person versus trusting your internal protection system, which is your gut. And oftentimes your gut picks up on things that your brain hasn't yet caught up to, but will catch up to. And how many times are women taught to be nice? How many times are they taught to be agreeable? How many times are they taught not to rock the boat, to do what's expected, to treat people kindly and politely? Actually, the word is nice. I actually grew up in the era of nice, and I tell you what, nice causes a lot of problems for girls because it's like, oh, you know that nice boy over there, you should say hi to him, you should be nice to him. And then you could potentially get a situation that is more than you bargained for, right? Maybe this guy seems to think that you like him and you don't. You try to tell him and it doesn't work. That could lead to some very unfavorable consequences. Not saying that always happens, but the other thing too is nice often opens people up for bullying and for unwanted attention that they're not really wanting or prepared for. Let's talk about the override. Every woman knows the override. When you know that you have a gut feeling, but you want to be nice and you want to avoid that override, like you want to avoid that feeling. So you say, maybe I'm overthinking, right? I'm not giving him a chance. I mean, he's nicely dressed, he's nice, he's willing to help me out. Like, what's the problem? Or maybe I'm too sensitive. But what's actually happening, there is a mismatch between tone, words, facial expressions. Something isn't adding up. Maybe this person started this initial conversation on false pretenses, right? Pretenses that felt like they were genuine, but the more you think about it, the more it doesn't make sense. For instance, oh, I'm Bill Gates' nephew. Really? I know that's a ridiculous example, but that's kind of an example that some people would use to try to get an in with someone. Or subtle incongruence, which is essentially where, again, things aren't lining up. They're saying, like, as you're saying something, you notice that they start huffing or they start just kind of gritting their teeth or balling their fists. Like, this person is clearly upset about something and you're not sure what. Do you want to get into the crosshairs with this person? Most likely, you would not want to get in the crosshairs with someone who's clenching their fist, clenching their teeth. Maybe they're pacing erratically. Maybe they've said things erratically. I will give you an example. I actually had been asked to go to Denny's with someone when I was in college, and all my sorority sisters were busy. So I wanted to go to Denny's, and I was like, okay, sure, whatever, you know. And so I ended up going to Denny's with this person, and they were going to drive. Well, when I put my hand on the door handle, something pushed me back. I truly believe it was God. People can say I'm crazy. That's fine. I don't care, but I truly believe that. And when I was stopped at the stoplight, he had came up and he knocked on my door. He's like, oh, hey, let's go to the gas station. Let's go to the gas station. And I was like, no, I'm going to go into Denny's. I'm good. And so I went to Denny's. He went to Denny's. He didn't order anything. But he kept talking about his mother in very unflattering terms, essentially what I consider to be epithets concerning women. I won't say the words, but I'm sure you can imagine. And at that point, like, he just kept saying these terrible things about women. And I remember him then saying something about, there was this lady who I was like, oh, I wonder what kind of, dessert I want to get. And this lady said, and she was a little bit of a heavier lady, not a big deal. I mean, I don't care. I mean, that doesn't mean anything to me. But he was like, oh, do you really want to look like that? And I was like, wow, like, why are you being so mean? And he was like, well, it's true. I mean, have you looked at her? And I was just like, what? And then he continued to go on about his mom and mom again, over and over again. And at one point, he literally like said, like, I was talking to a server because I was a server at that point in time. And he was like, well, why are you talking to the help? And I was like, well, I'm a server. I've been a server, And then there's the scenario where he's like, well, why would you do that? Why are you talking to them? And then I remember when like I said, he didn't get anything to eat, but he literally like threw down his debit card and was like, I got this. And I remember saying to him, I was like, I don't want you to think that I owe you something. So no, thank you. I have my own, I have my own money. I don't need you to buy me anything. And he's like, well, suit yourself. And I was like, yeah, I will. And he just kept saying, hey, you need to go with me to my apartment. Like, you need to go with me to my apartment. And I was like, no, thank you. No, thank you. No, thank you. Like a million times. And then when it came time to leave Denny's, thank goodness it was a Friday. Thank goodness it was a Friday because they had a sheriff on duty at the Denny's where I was going to school. And I literally... So he continues to say, hey, you need to go with me to my apartment. And I was like, no, thank you. No, thank you. No, thank you. And I had a very small car at that point. And he literally tries to run out and beat me outside. And so he literally sits on the trunk of my car and he has his arms crossed. And he was like, I'm not getting up until you agree to go to my apartment with me. And I was like, so I don't like confrontation. I know I've said that multiple times, but I had a scenario where I literally like thought that I could be nice and that being nice would make him leave me alone, right? So I did one of these things. I was like, could you like get off my car, please? Because I have to go. And he was like, I'm not agreeing to you, and I'm not agreeing with you. I'm not agreeing to get off your car until you agree to go to my apartment with me. And I was like, well, that's not happening. And then that's when I felt the gut punch in my stomach. And I realized that I had to be mean, right? I had to be. And so I literally look at him and I take a deep breath and I say, you are going to get off my car right now, or I will go to the sheriff's deputy and I will have him tell you to get off my car. Your choice. What do you want to do? To which point he literally calls me the B word and he says, you don't have to be that way. And I was like, well, I asked you nicely the first time and you refused. So what do you want me to do? What do you expect me to do? So he gets off my car. And that evening, all my roommates were asleep, unfortunately, and I was freaked out because I looked out my window and he's still out there a couple hours later. And then the next morning, I had to go to work to serve, and he again was out that morning. And yeah, and in a full circle moment, I actually met someone who knew him, and he apparently was telling people that he was an op for the U.S. Army, which I don't really believe that. Like, he was a hired assassin. I'm like, yeah, right, whatever. But the thing that I ultimately wanted to ask myself, and I thought about it a lot, like, what was the big thing behind the apartment? I think if I had gotten into the car with him, I wouldn't have had a choice, number one. So I do think God saved me there. And the number two thing is I feel like there was something at his apartment. As a woman, you know what the options are. I mean, best case, you're still alive. Worst case, you're in a ditch somewhere, no one knows where you are. And I truly believe that there was some like evil intention, is truly what I believe. And he was creepy and he was giving me creep vibes the whole time. So I'm thankful to be here telling you this story, honestly. Not to be overly dramatic, but seriously. And so what's actually happening, like that guy, like he seemed to be nice in the beginning, but there was a mismatch between his tone and his words, right? Because what woman is going to listen to a man talk about, calling women names and other terribly unflattering words, right? That is not the type of person that you want to be around or be anywhere near, honestly. A subtle incongruence again, and over polished energy. Like he just kind of seemed hyped. I don't know. But the truth, your body processes faster than your mind can, right? So you don't need proof to feel uncomfortable. You need to just trust what you see, right? And trust your intuition. That is a very big thing that women need to work on. And also, this isn't labeling people. I'm not labeling that guy as a psycho. I'm labeling him as someone who I didn't want to be around, right? And I'm not assuming intent, except in my scenario because I actually lived that, right? But most people are not doing that. And you're just not overriding yourself. You're overriding your brain and your intuition and your personal protection system. So, in closing, sometimes the most important information you have is the feeling that you can't explain yet. But trust me, given my circumstance that I told you the story about, it will line up and it will make sense. You just have to not put so much pressure on yourself, because it's almost like you're trying to force yourself to put the pieces together before they're ready to be put together. So thank you for tuning in to Recovering Perfectionist Mama, Grace in Progress. And I appreciate each and every one of you. And I hope that you all come back and see me again soon. Have a great day. Bye-bye.